Let's go to Kai. And Kai's question is, he says, nice to see us all here. And the question is, in CPS, for some problems with longer time frames, forecasting the future may be an essential part of problem solving. Do you think it's necessary to explicitly mention that in the book? And if so, what kind of cognitive and affective skills are essential for forecasting?
Well, Michael Mumford talks about the importance of forecasting, so I'm not well versed in the specifics around that, but he has a chapter published recently in a book edited by Rickards, Runco, and Moser called The Rutledge Companion on Creativity. And Mumford, in looking, who I'm a big fan of his work, specifically identifies forecasting as one of the crucial skills for leaders. And so, Kai, if you're interested in that, I really suggest you look up Mumford's work. In terms of creative problem solving, now let's be really clear here. When we talk about creative problem solving, let's not just think about creative problem solving as a process that you're applying on a specific task, but as a set of behaviors, a philosophy, a way of operating as a leader. So if you've internalized it, I would think that the skills, affective and the cognitive, are going to help you with situations, challenges over the long haul. That it's not a skill set that you pull out only when needed, but that it's a way of looking at the world, a way of interacting with the world. So coming back to the point around that we're trying to emphasize around internalizing it, if it's internalized, there is no long haul because it's what you carry with you all the time. So as a leader, let's go to a specific situation in which you're in a role and you're working with your team. As a leader, I mentioned this earlier, we're always engaged in a process. Leadership is a process. So what are you doing as a leader to tap into, draw out the imagination of others, facilitate, not in a, I'm standing at the flip chart facilitating, but more generically facilitating a group, moving a group towards some meaningful goal. So it is, as a leader, engaging in strategies over time that are going to benefit, deliberately call on those skills that are creative problem-solving skills.
Something that strikes me also is one of the key pieces of creative problem-solving is that diagnostic thinking. And so part of your diagnostic thinking can be, where might I find other tools and strategies that would be helpful in this situation? And we talked about the fact that we don't limit ourselves to these are the CPS tools, but when you're in a thinking mode, for example, if you're in visionary thinking, the concept of forecasting may be something that you want to look into. When you're in tactical thinking, looking at project management and all of the approaches and tools and techniques that are there. So it sort of broadens you in thinking about, well, what's out there that we might actually draw upon. So I think diagnostic thinking is something that will help you regardless of whether you're talking more long-term, short-term. When you go into an organization that is using Six Sigma and people are tired of the flavor of the month process that's being used, well, we're not talking about flavor of the month. We're talking about fundamental thinking skills and creative thinking skills. So to me, that is foundational to any approach or any other skill set that you might want to develop in doing what you need to do.
Good question. Good to hear from Kai.
Yeah. I want to mention the 1-800 number again. It's 461-2113. And let's go to Texas A&M via Singapore. And it's always a question from the two of them, of course. And we know that's Hector and Susanna. It's good to hear from them.
Hey, Susanna.
They say that we tend to lump schools into the category of organizations, but no other organization has the influence to shape the thinking of a generation as schools do. Looking at the new developments that you have presented, like creative management and affective skills, how would you make this applicable for teachers and students in a school setting?
I think that's a good question for you.
I do too.
Yeah.
All right, I'll start.
Yeah. And it's a great question.
It's a great
'cause
question. Well, and that's one of the things when Gerard and Mary and Marie started to share their thinking, it was quite apparent that when you begin to articulate it at the level of thinking skills and the kind of strategies that can come from that, and being able to pull from different skill sets different disciplines. When you go into education, you look at the enormous amount of good work that's out there, and is kind of scattered. I mean, there's some great programs and there's some good frameworks. This is a very good framework in which to pull things in. So I do a lot of work in Austin, Texas, and my colleague down there immediately saw the implications of it when we started talking, because we were looking for a framework, K-12, for creative thinking, and I use the term creative thinking loosely, because we could have called it something else, but it's around thinking for kids, and how do you integrate that K-12? And I started playing around, and I said, this is it. This, not taking it from the CPS framework, but taking it from those skills, and then going back to integrating some of creative problem solving, but as the framework for a scope and sequence K-12, we used those skills, and it's been well received so far.
Yeah. So it's happening.
So,
it's clearly
yeah.
happening. So it's not just theoretical. You've actually applied it. It makes me think about, and I love this question because I have a lot of passion around. Really, it goes back to Osborne's vision. How do we, why are we here? It's because Alex Osborne wanted to have an impact on American education 50 years ago. And more recently, 21st Century Partnership, where they talk about the necessary skills to be effective in the new millennium, creative thinking and problem solving, innovation are identified as essential skills. The reality is everything's in change, and the speed of change has exponentially increased more recently, and it's really important that as we work in our educational system, we need to do a better job to prepare young people to join that world. Maslow, in his journal written in the 1970s, his personal journal reflecting on education, said maybe the focus of education should be developing young people who have a change orientation, they have a change personality. So in other words, they're open to, because he said education too much tries to provide people with past knowledge as a way of predicting what they need to do to be successful in the future. And more, I don't know what the number is, but 20%, 25%, 30% of the jobs that'll exist 10 years from now, we have no idea what they are. It's sort of like trying to drive a car by only looking in your rearview mirror. So to what degree is our educational experiences helping us to develop that change orientation, that change personality? And I think tying it back to the thinking skills model, the advantage of knowing what the skills are, it's not just teaching kids tools.
Right.
It's giving kids the skills, the affective and the cognitive skills, to have that, what Maslow talks about as a change personality.
I think you can also have a different dialogue with those who are in education about creative thinking skills, as opposed to, CPS, creative problem solving, would be a good thing. If you talk about creative thinking skills and parallel that, everyone would say, yes, people and students, young kids need to learn critical thinking skills, right? That's a pretty commonly agreed upon skill set. Well, what about creative thinking skills as a companion to that? I think it allows you to have a different dialogue and
Yeah.
engage people differently.